Hi everyone. Before we do start this podcast, our Chiefs Dolphins preview, I wanted to address an issue in our last episode involving the Bills and Steelers, where I went to introduce Fred Patton's thoughts on Bill Belichick leaving the Patriots, but I forgot to actually include that clip in the episode. So huge apologies. That's something I normally pride myself on, being really alert to my editing skills. So this podcast will start with a quick reaction from Fred, and then we'll then go into the episode with me and Brad. Hope you guys enjoy.
Hi Andy, yeah, it's there's lots to take in at this point. It's very I felt the longer this week was going to go on, the more chance that Bill was going to be staying. Obviously we're in a situation now where he's not. I don't know what that means for the rest of the coaching setup as well. I know there are all sorts of rumours going on this week. We'll find out more about the process, I guess, at 12 o'clock Eastern time or 5 p.m. our time, in terms of where they came to. Understand that Crafts and Bill had a couple of meetings this week to try and ascertain a way forward, but ultimately I think they probably sat down, worked out who they could get, whilst you've got this really competitive defence, to see if they can make that offence competitive. And you're taking a huge gamble if you take a rookie quarterback. In order to do that, you're looking probably 3 years minimum to be really seriously competitive, by which point Bill's 74, 75 and it doesn't work. So, it's sad the way it's ended, but he can go out knowing that everyone's still playing for him, that defence, and working as hard as ever. And, we sort of just look forward to the new era. But yeah, it's a strange feeling and a strange time.
And welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast for the third of our 6 NFL Wildcard game preview episodes. And this time it involves my team, as I am this week joined by a Chiefs fan as we preview the Dolphins against the Chiefs in Arrowhead, which is the second game of the weekend. Now, I'm as ever your host, Andy Davies, and this week I'm joined by a returning guest. It's one of our resident Chiefs fans on the pod. Back with me today is Brad Symcox. Brad, first of all, how are you?
I'm very good, mate. I'm very happy the season's over, actually, believe it or not, after seeing how this Chiefs offense has been going.
Well, everyone says this, but I still think the playoffs is an entirely different beast, and I think that it's almost like a different tournament altogether. So I'm still think you guys shouldn't be, I don't think, underlooked so much, because I think that the same thing happened 2 years ago when you made the AFC Championship game, and you should have really won that game as well. So I think anyone who doubts the Chiefs, like the Patriots in the years gone by, is a fool, really. So I think you guys, I can still see, we'll get on to in the episode, but I still see Mahomes and Kelsey being much better in the playoffs.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, the veterans now basically of this, aren't they? And they're quite used to the playoff rounds. So hopefully it's going to be in our hands, I think, with the fact that we've got those two leading the charge. And we've got some bright prospects coming as well. Well, especially one of them in particular, which is Rashee Rice. Seems to be doing the business for us this year, which has been a welcome addition, really, because we've had a lot of drops and a lot of issues with a couple of our players in the wide receiver core recently as well.
Yeah, shout out to Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
You knew exactly who he was.
Yeah, I'm saying this now. He's probably going to score a touchdown now. You watch. That's all I'm saying. But of course, we talk about the Germany game, the fact that we were robbed of a Tyreek Hill Arrowhead game. Turns out we've now got it. I don't think anyone thought we were going to get this in the wildcard round. Certainly a month ago when we seemed to be on our way. We talked about it in the Bills episode. It was only a month ago when the Bills had that awful schedule coming up of the Chiefs, Cowboys, and Eagles. and we were seeming on our way to win the AFC. I was thinking if we're going to play you, it's probably going to be in at least the divisional round, if not the championship game. Turns out we got it in the wildcard round after our end of season collapse, you could say, albeit against some good teams. But here we are. So Tyreek Hill returned to Arrowhead. Now, for you, in terms of that, I don't think he left really a little bit of a sour taste in people's mouths, but I don't think it was an awfully controversial move. I might be wrong. I don't know. Chiefs fans might think differently, but what kind of reception do you think he's going to get in Arrowhead, especially after the stuff about saying Tua is more accurate than Patrick Mahomes on his podcast and stuff like that, and the fact he basically admitted on the podcast he left for money. What do you think it's going to be like in Arrowhead for him?
I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue. I think he's going to be celebrated because he's one of those players that really kind of brought us a Super Bowl in like the first one in like 50 years. And a lot of Chiefs fans still regard him as one of the best Chiefs players that we've ever had. And we saw in Frankfurt actually before the game. I was looking up obviously to see the game and to see him doing almost like a lap of honor. Shaking hands with all the players and everything like that. But the fans really kind of give him a good welcome reception, which it might surprise some people about that. But I obviously think there's a lot of love for Tyreek Hill still. Yes, okay, he might have left under a bit of a grey cloud where he went for the money and he went for the sunshine, and he went for the glitz and the glamour of Miami. I mean, when you compare it to Kansas City, it's not glitz and glamour. You're gonna see that this weekend when it's just absolutely covered in snow. It's freezing cold. I get it. I understand why he did it. And I think a lot of Chiefs fans understand he wanted to get the bag. He wasn't getting the bag with the Chiefs. For whatever reason, there was off the field issues that kind of played into his contract, so to speak. Whenever he was getting renewed, there was always some kind of issue off the field where, I mean, we won't cover it that deeply because it's not something that we really should be going into. But the fact that I think he felt that he was worth more somewhere else. He wanted to be back in Miami as well because that seems to be one of his homes over there. He really obviously loves Miami. And I think it just fell for him. I think it just fell for him. He was tempted by the money, tempted by the glitz and the glamour location, and the possibility of being the number one guy in Miami as well, where he was never going to get that at the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. He was always like the third wheel, shall we say, in Kansas City. So it was a bit of a grey cloud. He had been making his mouth go a little bit during the preseason and everything, especially when he said he was going to throw up the deuces in our head, and the Chiefs denied him that by playing the game in Frankfurt. So now at least he gets that opportunity this time in the wildcard round.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating matchup. I mean, the snow is going to be, I think, certainly for neutral, it's going to be a great watch. I think every NFL fan loves the snow game, and I think it's going to be. I think this game could either be lights out or could be a low scoring defensive affair. And I think both teams have got that ability. And I think that, you look at the fact that the Chiefs got shut out by the Dolphins in the second half and we got shut out in the first half in Germany. So I think there's definitely potential to be a great game. Now, I want to get your thoughts on this because I certainly have heard a lot of it, main talk really amongst Dolphins fans. I certainly seem to not be able to be able to get them to think anything other than Tua is. I think there's definitely you can't really criticize Tua on the Dolphins group chats, on a lot of Dolphins chatter. It's almost like people who sometimes like to over defend Darwin Núñez, and I think that with Tua, I'm finding that the moment you try and slag him off or criticize him, some of the fans just completely go for you and say, "What are you doing?" He's the excuse after excuse, and I'm finding personally more and more frustrating that you can never do in a big game. But I want to get your thoughts as an outsider, someone who isn't a Dolphins fan or even an AFC East fan. What's your thoughts on Tua? Because he's obviously passing yards leader, but he's not even in the top 5 touchdown passes either, which suggests to me that he can get the ball down to near the red zone, but he can't actually convert, or we're relying on Raheem Mostert. But yeah, what's your take on Tua? Because I'm hearing a lot of I'm hearing a lot of Dolphins chat about it. I'm not hearing much outside of that. So yeah, what's your take on Tua?
I think before Tyreek Hill arrived, I think Tua was finding it a bit hard in the NFL. I think there was a time. I'm old enough to remember actually the fact that Tua was very much playing for his job at one point, and they've got Tyreek Hill involved. And I think I think when you get a player like Tyreek Hill, there is a level of expectation. I think which comes with signing a huge player like that. And I think once you've given Tua that big tool right there that he can use, his output is going to be obviously a lot better than that has been. And he's proved it. He's proven he can still throw the deep balls. He's still got the vision as well. But it's just every now and again he gets he gets like the mistakes in the way, and it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I mean, the team's changed quite a bit as well. So Tua's obviously, been adjusting to that, and obviously adjusting to having somebody such as Tyreek Hill, a high-powered player like he is. And it's going to take time. And I think another season with Tua, I think you probably see a lot more benefit from having a player like Tyreek. And Tua's going to get better, I think. You can't get any worse really with the fact that you've got somebody like Tyreek Hill playing there, and you've also got, you've got the running game there as well, which is helping him out, which is A-Chain, isn't it? Which there's a couple of good players there that really kind of going to relieve that pressure, I think, a little bit more for Tua moving forward.
Yeah, I think one thing I will say, I am definitely one of the non-Tua stands in this world, but I will say I've not yet seen him play a game where, or even a few games in a row where you've had the offensive line all healthy, Jalen Wardle and Tyreek Hill both healthy, the trio of A-Chain, Mostert, and Jeff Wilson healthy. I've not yet seen all that with David Howard and Ramsey both on the field at the same time, with Phillips and Chubb. So I will say in its defense, there have been a lot of injuries. And I know every quarterback has an excuse, but I will say that in its defense that we've not yet seen the whole team together at once. And, that is a shame. But I asked this to Javan earlier this week, and I ask this to you as well, Brad. Have you seen a game in Tua's career in the NFL where we're down by 7 points or 6 points in the final three quarters, and you've gone on and won the game? Now, the one I can think of is that Dallas Cowboys game, but that was a 15-yard penalty. But apart from that, have you seen him ever in a big game when the chips are down actually win the game for this team?
It's a good point, actually, because you get talented quarterbacks in the NFL who seriously have the talent, they have the ability, but don't have that clutch play in them, or that ability to actually close a game out, or at least drive the team down the field in the last dying seconds of the game. And that is something that Tua really does need to work on a lot more. You're right, the Dallas Cowboys one is probably the only one that kind of springs to mind, but you see it all the time. I mean, it's similar with the likes of Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is a very highly talented player. Clutch situations he's not really good at, and you could probably say that about Josh Allen as well, or even Lamar Jackson. Somebody like that who you need a quarterback who's going to drive you not just through the season, but obviously through the playoffs as well. And this is the kind of moments that you need to really kind of show up and show what he's worth in the playoffs, to really close out these games and really kind of, put the pressure on other teams. Clutch play is something that I don't know what it is. You don't seem to like teach it. And you see Patrick Mahomes doing it. You saw him a few years ago when he did it against the Bills. 13 seconds left. He managed to drive the team down the field. They kicked the field goal and took it into overtime. They eventually won that game. And that's the kind of presence you want from a quarterback. And Tua needs to find that.
Absolutely. I think we've seen many quarterbacks of it. Russell Wilson, I remember him having numerous times drives down the field late on to win the game. I remember one against, I think it was the Vikings in the COVID year. You mentioned Mahomes there, 13 seconds. Even Josh Allen, though he makes these bad plays, but in the same game, he can win you games by throwing for 3 or 4 himself. Lamar Jackson, we haven't seen it yet. And there's some players like Eli Manning and Joe Flacco in that one season he had where they're not even that good in the regular season, but come to playoffs, give them that wildcard weekend, stick on the grass on the field, and they just seem to turn up. So I don't think you can teach. We talked about this earlier this week. I don't think you can teach clutches. You can teach arm strength. You can teach speed to an extent. You can teach mobility. You can teach acceleration, strength, etc. But you can't teach that. You can sort of maybe teach how to handle nerves or how to handle, but you can't actually on the field throwing the ball, being clutch. You just can't teach it. I think some players do, some players don't. Now, I don't think that means we can't win games because I think that if you've got the run game like we've mentioned, or we've got someone like Hill and Waddle that can do it, or even the defense and the Fangio has at times kept us in games or won us games. So I think the Ravens game last year where we were what 6 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns behind if you won the game. I think that should be sign, and also the national championship game for Alabama that he can do it, but I just haven't really seen it for me enough yet to suggest to me that he is like an elite quarterback. Now I think that I wouldn't get rid of him unless Mahomes goes in the press conference. I want to go to Miami, or someone like Lamar Jackson, or even Dak says it. I think unless an elite quarterback comes, I think we're stuck with him for a while. So I think he's got plenty of time to improve. I don't think he's at all fighting for his job. But at the same time, I do question whether I said this earlier. I think he is Kirk Cousins 2.0. I think talented quarterback, but has that almost yips, or is it ips or yips in when it matters. So I think that is one thing I will say. But someone who has been clutch and elite, 11 playoff wins in his career already, is Patrick Mahomes. Of course, he is the reigning Super Bowl champion, reigning Super Bowl MVP, reigning MVP as well. But it hasn't gone his way in recent weeks. It hasn't been the same Mahomes really all season. Now, you can pin a lot of that on the drops, but there have been times where I think he threw back-to-back pick sixes against the Raiders on Christmas Day. What's your take on what I think many probably think now has probably been the worst season of his career, where he started games?
Yeah, it's been a very unusual Chiefs offense this year. It really has. I mean, it's not something we've been accustomed to, especially over the last 6, 7, 8, 7, 8 years even. And a lot of that talk was always about, we should have kept Tyreek Hill. I mean, when you think about it, Mahomes won a Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill, so you can't really blame that. I don't know what it's been. It's we have had drops. We have had quite a few drops this year. MVS is obviously one of them. Kadarius Toney was one of those as well. Who, even from week one, it looked as though we were trying to scheme him open. He was getting open, but every time the ball was going to him, he was dropping it. And it's been the same old thing week in, week out, the whole season, where this offense just doesn't seem to click. And it worried us for a while. It has been worrying us for quite some time. The Chiefs defense has been really digging us out of holes a lot. I mean, that defense at the minute, that's probably one of the best defenses I've ever seen as a Chiefs fan in God knows how many years I've been following them. And to get excited about the defense when you've got a Patrick Mahomes, you've got Travis Kelce, and you've got Andy Reid calling the shots on the offense, it's almost like a role reversal. Suddenly we're relying on the defense rather than the offense to really dig us out of the hole. And it has been strange because we've seen Mahomes with a lot of frustration, obviously because of the drops, but even just getting players open, it just seems to be a bit of an issue. He's not really kind of trusted his O-line. I think the tackles he's got at the moment, Juwan Taylor, right tackle, is probably the most penalised player in the league. I think he is, actually. I think he had something like 17 or 18 penalties this year. On the left side, he's had Smith. He's gone out injured, and then we've had like Wanya Morris, who's like a rookie playing at left tackle. So he's not really been confident with that O-line. And you can see it in the game. He's hesitant to throw the ball to the wide receivers. He's hesitant. He's almost like jittery a little bit in the pocket. And we're so used to Mahomes just doing some magic somehow, some way or somehow. And he's been trying to do that, but he's also been getting forced into errors that either might be his problem, or it might be the wide receiver's problem. And it's just shown that frustration from Mahomes, where I think it was about 4 weeks ago, or 3 or 4 weeks ago, where MVS was wide open. Mahomes did the deep bomb to him, and he just let it go through his fingers. And the frustration levels just seemed to just spill out right there, right on the sideline. You saw Mahomes really kind of, doing the F-bomb and everything like that on the sidelines, just really frustrated to the fact that he knows that this Chiefs team has high standards, and some of the players, or some of the plays, or some of the play calling hasn't been meeting those high standards. And some Chiefs fans have been blaming Matt Nagy, who's obviously the new offensive coordinator now. Some people have been blaming the wide receivers. Some people have even been blaming Mahomes as well for being a bit too hesitant. But when I don't think you can really blame Mahomes in this, because he's proven he can do it at a high level. And like you said, 11 playoff wins. He's got 2 Super Bowls, been to 3 Super Bowls. He's got a couple of MVPs, a couple of Super Bowl MVPs. He's a highly decorated player, and he's a veteran of the game now. It's crazy to think that he's been in the league, 7, 8 times, or 7 years or something like that now, 7th year. It's very strange to have this issue with a Patrick Mahomes-led offense. And it has been a worry. It probably still will be a worry through the playoffs. Because it's something that you've got to factor in. You really have to factor it in that there hasn't been many bright spots in this offense, apart from Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco. There's not really been anything that's kind of led this offense to really convince Chiefs fans that suddenly it's just going to click.
Now, yeah, obviously the big thing I think that I mentioned at the start, I think that it's still the playoff thing. Mahomes is the only one of 2 active starting quarterbacks that have won a Super Bowl in the whole NFL, let alone the playoffs. I mean, you got Matt Stafford, you got Mahomes. Also Joe Flacco's now. That makes it 3. And also, if Rodgers was healthy, he'd be the 4th. But there aren't many quarterbacks left that have actually won a Super Bowl. And Mahomes is already on. I said before, already on 11 wins. Now, if he wins just 2 games. So he wins this game in the divisional round, he will go level with Roethlisberger and Brett Favre for total career playoff wins. And then if he wins that the next round as well, if he makes a Super Bowl this year, then he will be joint 3rd already in his career. So he'll be level with Bradshaw, level with Elway and Manning, and only 2 off Montana. And obviously Brady's miles ahead, 35 wins. I don't think he could beat that. He may not. I don't know, but to be like that in what's it now? Is it like 6 years to already be potentially the joint basically third most clutch quarterback in NFL history? Just speaks volume about how really, and the fact he's had 5 straight years with AFC Championship games, all of them at home. He's not yet had a playoff game on the road. It may well be this year's the first year, but to be 7, 8 years in, to be playing your first ever road playoff game that isn't a Super Bowl, and potentially chance to go joint third overall, the joint 3rd highest about playoff wins in career history, just speaks volume about how good it's been for him since he came into the league.
Yeah, ice in his veins, basically. That seems to be what we've seen from Mahomes. But like I said, he has been frustrated. The blood's boiled over a little bit a few times in this season. So does that affect him? I don't know. I mean, obviously the Chiefs have done all right in the last couple of weeks. I keep saying about this. I keep talking about this championship swagger. We suddenly had this championship swagger back in 2018, 2019, when obviously we won the Super Bowl, and we've tried to maintain that championship swagger kind of mantra throughout the winning culture at Kansas City. And I think we lost that a little bit this year. I don't know what it was. It just seemed as though everything was flat. Even Kelsey looked a little bit flat on the sidelines. I don't know how you can be flat when you're dating Taylor Swift, but apparently that's how he is. But he does seem very different this year, does Travis Kelsey. This is probably I think it's the only season now in the last 7 that he's not actually reached 1,000 yards. He's been short. He's been 16 yards short of it, and he clearly said on his podcast that he wasn't really chasing the stats. He's more about being ready for the team and everything like that. But I don't know what it is about Travis. He has seemed very just out there. Just seemed like spaced out quite a few times when you see him on the sidelines. And we're so used to Travis Kelsey amping everybody up, really kind of getting in the players' faces and getting them all psyched. And we've seen it loads and loads of times over the last few years where he's really kind of just been the main cheerleader of the team. And he's not been like that. It's been very, very odd. But the last couple of games, this championship swagger just seems to have suddenly started creeping in a little bit. We saw with obviously Chris Jones getting his $1 million sack. The whole team went absolutely wild when he got it. He reached his incentive, and all the players just rushed around him and celebrated. It's things like that that can really kind of spark a team into life a little bit more. And yeah, like I said, the championship sweater, it could be coming and peaking at the right time.
Do you think as well now? Do you think as well now? I'm saying this with bated breath because he is about to play us in what 2 days' time, and I'm saying this only being 5 years younger than him. Um, is he is he maybe showing signs of decline? Because he is 34. He's not a spring chicken anymore, and that is in NFL terms is quite old. Now he's still obviously, albeit still with 16 yards off 1,000 yards, and he's for me he is the best tight end of all time. Do you think there is maybe signs of decline because he can't go on forever? And that I don't think he's been that. I think he's only got 5, 6 touchdowns all year. To me, you probably know more than me, having watched him every week. But it just seems to me that he maybe is on the way down, and maybe he's got maybe one last title run in him.
We've said this a few times. It does look like Kelsey is, and he's in a happy place. He is in a happy place right now. He's obviously double Super Bowl champion. He's set records left, right, and center. He's followed his heart, and he's took a shot at trying to take the most popular woman in the world. He finally did it. He's finally there, and he seems very happy. She seems very happy, and those kind of things kind of change players sometimes. I think, especially when you're in this happy place. I mean, he's done what Saturday Night Live. He's done, he's doing great success on his podcast, on the New Heights podcast. Everything's going right for him. And I suppose when you get to a point in your life and you think everything's going great, I'm happy with where I am. Sometimes it might just creep into the mind thinking, do I really want to be playing football anymore? Or do I want to be following Taylor Swift around the world doing her tours and stuff like that, and maybe doing some punditry work, or maybe hosting a show somewhere, or just concentrating on his podcasts? Or it can play tricks on you sometimes. It can really change your outlook. And I think Kelsey, we've probably seen the start of something now where Kelsey's thinking, I've had a good career. I've had a great career. I've achieved what I've wanted to achieve. Is he going to go out on a high? I think if the Chiefs do somehow win the Super Bowl this year, it could be the right time for him and maybe Jason Kelsey to actually retire. It could be the last season for both of them. I don't know. It would be good if the brothers retired together, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they could both be inducted in the Hall of Fame on the same day, which I think they should definitely both try to retire the same year, because they're both first ballot Hall of Famers, particularly Travis Kelsey. I think if they can retire in the same year and then be in the same Hall of Fame ceremony, that would be just first of all great podcast content, but also it would be a fantastic thing. And I think that I think every athlete wants to retire on their own terms. Every athlete, especially in the NFL or even most sports, you want your last game to be a trophy. You want your last game to be whether it's Wes Morgan lifting the FA Cup, whether it's Peyton Manning winning Super Bowl and San Fran with the Broncos. And I think that I said that I was convinced that if the Eagles won it last year, we'd see Brandon Graham retire, we'd see Fletcher Cox retire, and Kelsey. And I think that certainly, I think Kelsey, if you've won, I wish I could remember the name of that syndrome athletes get after winning the Olympics, where you still think, what's next? And maybe you could argue, maybe with Kelsey, it's a thing of, well, I've won 2 Super Bowls. I could win it, and if he wins a third one, especially, you could be thinking, right, what's left to do? I've done enough now to prove myself to be the best of all time. I've won 3 rings. It's a fourth that much important to me, and the whole Taylor Swift thing will certainly add to that. So I think whatever happens this season, I think particularly if you win it, which I still think you can make Super Bowl. I also got you winning the AFC in my predictions on that Super Bowl bracket you can do online. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he retires. Now, this podcast is not all about Kelsey Mahomes. There are other players involved. Now, I want to ask you about the run game, because certainly in the Chiefs' pass game is very good. I mean, they've got the 4th best pass defense in the league. It might be 5th. We just checked that. They are the 4th. Amazingly, Carolina have got the 3rd best pass defense, which surprised me. So obviously they're going to be, they proved it in the first half against the Dolphins in Germany that you can stop Hill, you can stop Waddle, everyone else, and Tua. And on the flip side, Miami, you've got, if he is healthy, Xavier Howard, Jalen Ramsey, and I think Javon Holland as well. I think they'll be certainly people are going to give a lot of trouble to the Chiefs passing game. But I think, the run game for both teams, I think, is crucial. You got Mostert, who is the leading rusher in terms of touchdowns this year, and you got Isaiah Pacheco, who I think what is going to cause us, I think, just as many problems as Mahomes. I think he might be the star of the game. I think if they're going to win, he'll be the reason why. I think he is that good. I think he's that talented. So I think for me, do you see potentially, like I do, the run game being potentially a factor with, you look at even not just Mostert, but Devon A-Chain, who I think is actually, I think pound for pound, a better running back. I think Mostert's having a better season. And then you've got likes of Jeff Wilson, who I think is maybe one of the best third choice running backs in the league. So yeah, I think, and also, and then if you factor the fact that not just I say Pacheco, but also Mahomes' feet and the ability to use his legs. Just how crucial do you think maybe the run game is going to be for one of these teams winning the game?
I think it's going to be crucial for both teams, actually. I think with the weather and everything setting in, that it looks as though it's going to be a snow game. I think the run game is going to be essential to both teams, and both teams have got quite a balanced run game. Obviously, we've got Isaiah Pacheco, but even Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been putting in a shift when Pacheco went down injured. Edwards-Helaire has been, a surprise to us, really, because he has been. He has had issues in the last couple of seasons, let's say. He's not been the player that we were kind of promising ourselves that he was going to be, late first round pick. And we thought he was going to be the guy that was going to be the next, the next running back, or next kind of Kareem Hunt, that's going to be the one that kind of pushes this run game over the line a little bit more. But we've been lucky to get Isaiah Pacheco. Great player. I mean, he's had a few 100-yard seasons this season as well. Just he's an angry runner, and that's what we like about him. I think that's the thing that Chiefs fans really kind of appreciate him for, is whatever run he's doing, he really pounds the ground, and he's really making sure that he tries to grab every yard he can. He's not a finesse style of player like A-Chain is, but he will get you the yardage, and it's the gritty yardage that you kind of need from a player like Pacheco. But we've got similar players in a way with CEH and Pacheco. That's the only issue where I suppose with Mostert and A-Chain's very much he reminds me sometimes the way he cuts, almost like a Jamal Charles. He seems to cut through the field pretty, turns on a sixpence pretty quick. He's one of those players where Mostert's very much good straight line speed, but at least you've got that 1-2 punch there. I don't think the Chiefs will do that. I think they'll stick with Pacheco for as long as possible. Yeah, you might get CEH coming in, who's maybe going to be like almost like a power back, but the run game is going to be essential, I think, in this game. I don't think there's going to be much passing going on at all because of the weather.
Yeah, I have to agree, and I think that especially if Waddle is questionable, I think that we can't keep relying on Tyreek Hill. I think we're going to have to run the run game, and I think that one thing I found that is it was the same thing against Bills and early on against Ravens, that we start off games great in the run game. We got the first touchdown in the Ravens game because we were using the run game a lot, and then we suddenly came up with a pass. Cedric Wilson caught it, touchdown. In the Bills game, for a lot of the games, the first half especially, we were doing exactly what we wanted to do. We were running the ball well, and it works. And every time we go behind, we switch to pass, and that's when we go further behind. So I think, in a way, the snow might help us because it might force us to run the ball a bit more. Also, I know the Chiefs probably going to stuff the line a bit more and maybe prepare for the run a bit more than they would if it was a dry pitch. But yeah, I think that hopefully that will help us, because I think we're the kind of thing that if we're ahead of a game, we're great. We're really comfortable. When we go behind, I think we do sometimes force it a bit too much. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I think that if you win the toss, we should definitely receive it first. I'm always in favour of kick it away, but in our scenario and the way our team's built, I think we have to try and get the ball first, because if we can establish a lead early in that snow, then I think that we just keep pounding the ground. And it is working. It is working against the Bills. We gave them a lot of problems in the run game. And that's why I think the Steelers could cause them an upset. I don't think they will, but I think that's why they could potentially do that. So for me, I think we have to go by that route, and occasionally go down thankfully we've got players like Tyreek Hill who can make a 5 yard pass and turn it almost into like a little bit of a run play, really. So I think that should absolutely be our game plan: screen passes, jet sweeps, and all that and running. I think that should definitely be our game plan because, I think obviously the Chiefs have proved in the passing game and one-on-one coverage they've been great. So for me, I think that's definitely how we're going to win the game. And I think for Kade Kohu's sake, I think he should be glad it's Stone because he is a great nickel corner, so a nickel back, but I don't think he's a great in coverage. So I think for me, I think he will actually probably benefit from not having the ball passed to him too much. But we are going to end the podcast there. But before we do go, quick predictions. So, Brad, to you first. Who's going to win the game and what's the score going to be?
I originally went for a tight game. I actually predicted it on the Arrowhead Pride podcast, and I said it was going to be Dolphins 21, Chiefs 24. It was going to be ended on a Harrison Butker field goal. But I think it's going to be a difficult game for both teams. I think it's going to be one of those games that Tyreek Hill is obviously going to try and be up for, but it might just be the downfall of the Dolphins where they might be trying to force that touchdown for Tyreek Hill so he could throw up the deuces at Arrowhead, which he's almost promised in his preseason chat. So I've gone for a tight game though. I think it will be with the weather. I think it does favour us a little bit better because obviously we're used to the cold weather. It is at Arrowhead. And I just think there's a lot of advantages for the Chiefs in this, but it will be very tight.
See, I think it could be a bit more maybe one sided than we thought. Now, I think I've been saying the Chiefs are going to win the whole week, and I'm standing by that. But scoreline wise, now I've been thinking maybe it's going to be a 31-17 kind of game. Is it going to be maybe a 24-21, or is it going to be like a 20-17? And that's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for. Actually, no, I'm going to go for with the injuries you've got on both sides of the ball. I'm going to go for a. Oh, it's tough. I'm gonna stick with 31-17. I'm gonna stick with my first thought. 31-17 the Chiefs. I think just the injuries there. It's at Arrowhead as well. I've been to all 30 stages now. By far the loudest by a country mile, Arrowhead. To have that.
Amazing place, isn't it?
Probably going to be, yeah, it's crazy. As Germany proved, probably going to be a lot of Chiefs fans over Dolphins fans. It's just going to be too much. And as I said before, now I'm fully aware that Tua hasn't played a playoff game yet in his career. But I don't. We've beaten one team with a winning record all year, and that was down to a 15-yard flag, and a team that is basically the carbon copy of us, who also can't be a good team. So, I think for me, I'm going to go for the Chiefs win, and I'm going to go for 31-17. But yeah, that is where we will end the podcast for today. The halfway point of our wildcard round preview episode. We've done Texans Browns, we've done Bills Steelers, and now we've done Dolphins Chiefs. And do check the other two out if you haven't yet. If you are a fan of those teams or just a fan of the league, do check it out. There's some good episodes there, and this one will be out after those ones already done. So that is where we'll end the podcast for today. I have been your host, as ever, Andy Davies. This has been Brad Symcox, and we will see you guys next time.